All right, John, let's talk signing day first here. Are there any surprises? Were there any big surprises for OU on signing day?
The one that went against him, not getting Boko, I said it yesterday to anybody that asked, that was a gut punch to him. That was a guy they thought they were going to get. And, offensive line was a big need. And that guy, and he's a guy that I think OU was planning on being a 3 or 4 year starter at guard, and they didn't. UCLA got him.
One of the things that kind of the talk around the office here, John, is Dahu Green. I don't think there's any surprise that he decided he wanted to go to Oklahoma, but the question around here was, why did they wait so long to offer him? Do you think that's a guy that they felt like they had in their hip pocket if they lost someone else? Or do you think they waited to offer him so long because of the coaching change with Lincoln Riley?
A mixture of both, but OU's has particularly at wide receiver a pretty long history of holding that offer until certainly after the football season. And you can offer those guys if they feel like they can offer those guys in January or in Green's case really late January and still be able to get them. Personally, if I were a recruit, I wouldn't go for it. If you're not willing to offer me, if you're not willing to offer me until 10 days or 5 days before signing day, I'm not going to be that interested in you. But OU's been able to do that for years. I mean, they did the same thing with Ryan Broyles, and it worked out great. But it probably helped that he was committed to Washington State, and OU was getting ready to hire Washington State's receivers coach. There's no doubt about it. That helped.
John Shinn with us. Let me ask you, it's kind of a two-parter, but I want to ask him one at a time, John. A, are you confident with the stable of quarterbacks currently that OU has?
Yeah. I think with Baker Mayfield, he's a guy that has shown he can run that offense. I'll also say this. If OU gets themselves in a spot where they're going out there throwing the ball 55 times a game next year, it's not going to be a good season. Best part about that team is still going to be their running backs. If they are out there, throwing it 60 times a game or whatever, it is not going to be a very good year. I mean, that means you're playing away from your strengths. I think the big deal you're going to see next year is how well can Lincoln Riley tailor that thing around one quarterback, because ultimately that is every offensive coordinator's job. You're looking and when it comes to quarterbacks, you have to find one that makes all the reads he's supposed to, that just understands the game a little bit better than the other guys, and then you have to wrap that thing around what he does best, not what you think the offense looks best at. So that's going to be, I think, how you judge Lincoln Riley is, how, which guy does he pick and how does he go about wrapping his offense around him, not the other way around.
Well, I guess the reason I asked it, and maybe it falls on deaf ears after hearing that answer, but how surprised are you, if at all, I guess, that Oklahoma didn't get a quarterback in this class?
I understand why they didn't do it. They're feeling they gladly would have taken Kyler Murray, but they were not going to take a guy that they weren't completely in love with. In other words, They weren't just going to sign a quarterback to sign a quarterback.
Right.
And Cale Gundy explained it a lot yesterday. That their feeling is they'll be a lot more appealing to a 2016 quarterback because they didn't sign a quarterback this year than if they had just brought a guy in to bring a guy in.
You can say that every year that you don't recruit a quarterback. I mean,
there's not very many years they didn't recruit a quarterback. It was the first time since 2005 they didn't bring a guy in.
Wow.
So, usually every recruiting class has a quarterback in it. They have a strange deal because of Baker Mayfield coming in. They have 4 guys on scholarship.
Right.
All of them juniors or younger. They didn't necessarily need one, but I also said this: if Kohler, the kid from Norman North who signed with Oklahoma State, who enrolled at Oklahoma State in January, maybe if Lincoln Riley comes in November or something like that, maybe they do offer him. But that's water under the bridge now. Like I say, just taking a quarterback to take a quarterback, they didn't need to do that.
I know this is asking you something that, I mean, you're not there when these guys are recruiting the kids most of the time, but who do you think is the best recruiter on staff at Oklahoma right now?
Right now, it's Jerry Montgomery. I mean, he is the guy, and I say this because he is the guy that is going to Maryland, to Canada, to places OU's never been, and getting recruits everybody wanted. So I don't think there's any doubt about the guy who's selling the brand best right now is Jerry Montgomery. Now, one thing I think we're going to see when Bob Stoops makes it official that he's hired his 2 replacements on staff. Those guys, Terry Cooks and Dennis Simmons have deep roots in Texas, and that's something that OU needs to get back to, because I think what you've seen over the last couple of years is they are not one of the dominant forces recruiting in Texas that they certainly have been for 40 years.
John, OU basketball plays, I mean, if this isn't a trap game, I don't know what is a trap game on Saturday at TCU. TCU's lost 5 in a row. It falls right between home games for Oklahoma against West Virginia and Iowa State, with Iowa State coming in on Monday. Should the Sooners be concerned about this trip to TCU?
They should be. I mean, I can remember 2 years ago, they're comfortably inside the bubble for the NCAA tournament, and then they go play a TCU team that haven't won a conference game yet, and they lose. So, yeah, they should. There's enough guys on that team that know if you lay an egg, this is a bad spot. That being said, OU is a team that throughout the year they've responded from bad losses, but they haven't shown the ability to, I guess, learn the lesson once. For some reason, they need to learn it 2 or 3 times before it really settles in. It is the classic trap game, but if OU plays well, they should win handily. But on the other hand, if they go down there feeling pretty confident about themselves, look up and they're down 18 in the first half, they're probably going to lose that game, and they're going to lose a lot of low momentum by doing it.
John Shinn with us, and if there is a result like that this weekend, then what I'm about to ask you will become completely moot and will sound like a very idiotic question to even be asking, but I'll ask it anyway. I hate trying to be – it's going to sound cliche, and I always try to stay away from cliche, but I kind of felt like with the Sooners on the road, I just want to tell you, I want to get your thought whether I'm crazy or not. With the Sooners on the road in Stillwater, that second half, I kind of felt – I don't know. I felt something. I felt it could have been gas. I don't know, but I felt something. All right, and like that doesn't happen. That does not happen with this team. At least it hasn't in a while. At least not this year, where they've come back in the second half on the road. Throw on top of it that it's a rival. That was an impressive half of basketball.
Well, heck, it was their first single-digit win of the season.
Right, and then they back it up. I mean, and do it again. Are we? Did you feel something? Or was it gas when what happened at Bedlam and everything that's happened since then?
I felt like they definitely turned a corner at Bedlam. They hadn't won a game that had been decided in the final minutes all season, and they finally did that in probably the second roughest environment they've been in all year. So you feel like they did turn a corner there, but you just have to wait and see. It's this team, when they're convinced that they need to play well to win, has played pretty well. Hence the West Virginia game on Tuesday night. They knew they had to play well, and they went out and did it. But you bring up that TCU game, are they thoroughly convinced that they have to play well in that game? And that'll be a big deciding factor, because, like you say, they have a game coming up on Monday that they know they're going to have to play well to win.
Now, I say this a little bit tempered excitement because he did go 5 assists, 10 turnovers the last 2 games, but how much of that turning the corner has to do with Jordan Woodard playing better point guard?
He's playing a lot better point. Now, one of the reasons I think his turnovers are up is because they are putting the ball in his hands a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He also had 5 steals against OSU, too. It's fair to point that out.
Yeah, and especially against typically you're not going to get a lot of assists from your point guard against West Virginia because you don't really run an offense. You just, wait for the trap to come and then hit an open guy and then hope you get an open layup after that. So it's not you're not really running offensive sets. But he's playing well. He's finally shooting better than he's kind of showed the leap as a shooter that coaches had swore he had made in the offseason but really hadn't shown through the year. He's starting to make those wide open threes, which particularly the first half of Big 12 season, he could take all those he wanted. Nobody was going to guard him. Now he's starting to make them, and when he does, and there's another guard that you can't sag off of, that makes OU a much more effective offensive team.
All right, buddy. I think we're done with you today.
You are? All right.
All right, buddy.
I miss the days when we talked to you about court cases, John.
I know. This sucks. Well,
This
Joe
whole
Mixon's
on-the-court
back.
stuff.
Joe Mixon's back. We didn't even talk about that. He's back. I don't know.
Well,
you want any court nugget? You got any court nuggets? Give them to us. Go ahead.
I don't have any. There's nothing pending that I know of.
And I'm sure you're just fine with that, right, John?
Sure, yeah.
This always happens with me. The minute we get John Shinn off the phone, a story will come out. See you later, John.
See you guys.
Back to work. John Shinn, everybody, on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline.